It's a huge moment right now, 4 hours after the polls closed in Atlanta. It's a dramatic moment right now. We're waiting for a huge batch of votes to come in from DeKalb County outside of Atlanta. Potentially that could determine who wins these two Senate races. Take a look right now. Right now, the Republicans are ahead in both, with 91% of the estimated vote is in. Kelly Loeffler, the Republican, she has about a 75,000 vote lead over the Democrat, Raphael Warnock. In the other Senate race, David Perdue, the Republican, his lead is more impressive, 107,000 votes over the Democrat, Jon Ossoff, right now. 91% of the vote is in, 9% outstanding, but we're waiting for a big chunk of votes. John King coming in from DeKalb County. Right now, still only 42% of the vote is in. I want to go to CNN's Amara Walker right now, who's watching all of this unfold. She got a special guest for us. What are you learning, Amara?
Well, we just heard from Gabe Sterling a few moments ago, who's joining me now, that there are 171,000 outstanding votes, early in-person votes, that are supposed to be uploaded in DeKalb County at any minute now. However, there's been a discrepancy because the CEO of DeKalb County said, no, actually the number is 117,000 votes that are supposed to be uploaded. Gabriel Sterling is here to clear up that confusion for us. Why are we talking about discrepancy here? Who's correct?
Well, you might have remembered I said that a lot of these election workers have been really exhausted working to the ground. If you look at the two numbers, 171 and 117, the elections director just mixed up the 1 and the 7. And that's what she told him. And we called her and said, what's happening? She goes, oh, yeah, that was my bad. So this is the reality of real time when it comes to dealing with these situations in an election when everybody's been working their fingers to the bone.
Okay, so an understandable mistake. The numbers were interchanged. Do we know when these 171,000 early in-person votes will be uploaded to the system?
If the counties run elections, it's up to them. We talked to them. They're working diligently. They're trying to get them all done tonight. We know it's going to be done. They told us 45 minutes and an hour and a half ago. But, you know, as they go through each one of these things, we want to make through the quality control, make sure it's done properly, so that when we do upload it, it's that one time when we get the actual results on.
And you were telling me over the phone, Gabriel, that historically that it's usually 80-20 split for the Democrats in DeKalb County. Can you walk us through that?
And this kind of the advanced vote, what we saw from November, would be something similar to that. So this is going to be a huge boon to the Democrat candidates and a big hit to the Republicans who have built up a lead over time. But again, there's lots of nickels and dimes in the rest of those rural counties in Georgia that could come in and balance out some of this. And we still see I know the U.S. doesn't care as much. We have a Republican running for Public Service Commission who has a bigger lead than even the two senators right now, Bubba McDonald.
So it could possibly, though, come down to DeKalb County.
DeKalb County is going to have a really big impact on the outcome, but there's, like I said, there's dozens and dozens of counties out there, and you take lots of counties with a few votes margin versus one big county with a big vote margin, they can even out. So we've got potentially a long night ahead. Okay,
and last question to you, because I did see Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger walking by, and I asked him, when do you expect for us to know the final results of this Senate runoff? And he said, probably lunchtime tomorrow. Do you agree?
That is a rational estimate given the situation we've seen right now.
Optimistic.
Optimistic.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you so much for breaking that down for us. Wolf, back to you.
Yeah, I just want to ask Gabriel Sterling a quick question, and John King has a question for him as well, if he doesn't mind spending a few more moments with us. In addition to the 170,000 outstanding votes, and we're expected to get those results fairly soon in DeKalb County, how many other outstanding votes, Gabriel, do you think there are throughout the state?
Frankly, Wolf, I don't know right now because I've been having to answer questions every 2 minutes from people. We know there are a bunch out there. On top of the 171,000, we know there's another 12,000 election day votes that have to come in DeKalb County alone. But we have lots of counties that have no advance to no election day votes in, and some of those are Republican counties.
John King has a question for you, Gabriel.
When you say you don't know the total universe, you mentioned in your conversation with Amara a lot of these small rural Republican counties where you think, you know, there's a couple thousand here or a couple hundred there. You don't, but you're not certain of the universe at all. It's just helping in the context. I ask in the context of this. You know the math. When DeKalb County comes in, there's a chance there the Democrats can make up the deficits that they have right now, and then the question would be, what else is out there?
John, to be fair, they're going to more than make up the deficits. They will likely take the lead when this tranche of votes comes in. It's a question of how much. The secondary thing we have to worry about and look at is what is out in those rural counties. And you say they're small rural counties. Some of them ain't that small. Some of them will be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 at a pop that could still be potentially out there. And we have the universe of the advanced in person. We don't have the universe of the election day votes. And that's kind of the unknowable unknown for us until they do those final uploads.
So basically, what I hear you saying, Gabriel, it could still go either way. The Democrats might win, the Republicans might win. We just don't know. It's going to be very, very close. Although you're suggesting that the Democrats will do really well in DeKalb, and they could then, both of them, wind up taking the lead. Is that what I just heard you say?
If I'm going by historical numbers and looking at what we're seeing and knowing the history of DeKalb County, that is the likely outcome when this upload is done.
That's a dramatic moment indeed. The Democrats, well, we'll see what happens in DeKalb County. We're waiting for those numbers to come in. We will be anxious to get back to you. Let me ask you one other question. The timing of this, the release of these 171,000 votes in DeKalb County, is it momentarily, an hour from now, tomorrow? What do you think?
Well, our hope is it would be as soon as possible because, like I said, they told us 45 minutes about an hour and a half ago. So my assumption is it'll be sometime within the next hour. I'm hopeful I know this. It will be this evening.
And that could be really, really critical. Right now, 90% of the vote is in. So that means 10% of the vote, estimated vote in the state, Gabriel, is still outstanding. That's a lot of votes out there, but the biggest chunk is in DeKalb County, which is a heavily Democratic county outside of Atlanta.
Yes, that's correct. And it's really sort of an irony because the 60s and 70s, that was the hotbed of the Republican takeover in Georgia.
Things have changed dramatically, the demographics in Georgia right now. What else do you want our viewers to know before we let you go back to work?
We feel like we've had a very successful election day in terms of the election administration. We had smooth election, shorter lines. We saw a lot of good things out of this, and we just want to make sure people understand that these thousands of election workers have been working diligently to bring a free and fair election to the people of Georgia.
We are so grateful to you and all of these election workers because you know what's at stake? Democracy in the United States of America. People are watching here throughout the country. People are watching all over the world, and they're seeing democracy in Georgia right now. Gabriel, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Wolf. And one more thing. Go Dogs.
Okay. All right, John.
All politics is local. All sports is local.
Can I just add, go Bills?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to say congratulations, so I'll do it right here. People are worried about the Georgia Senate races, but amen for your Bills this year. Look, what we just heard is very significant, very significant. And he's right. We should give grace to these local officials who are tired. He says a local official just instead of 171 said 117. We'll watch. Let's watch. We've been through an interesting night and an interesting follow-up to a very interesting election cycle. We'll see if there's another dispute about the numbers, and we'll see how quickly come in. But the idea that if it's 170,000 plus versus that much smaller number, this could be the difference in these races because Democrats are getting 80% or more. If Democrats get 80% or more of those votes, each of these Democratic candidates could pick up net more than 100,000 votes. Could be 102, could be higher. Depends. Are you at 80? Are you at 79? Are you at 83? We'll watch as this plays up. But you could have a net of 100,000 votes or more just from those votes in DeKalb County. Now, if you're Jon Ossoff, it's probably not enough to get you past David Perdue, but it would get you very close, right? It would get you very close. And if you're Raphael Warnock, if you have a net gain of 100,000 votes, well, then you're suddenly in the lead in this race here. So these votes in DeKalb County, and again, for those of you who aren't sure where it is, this is Atlanta and Fulton County, DeKalb County, big, fourth largest county in the state, just to the east of Atlanta. These votes are now absolutely critical and essential to the Democrats. You can see the math for a Warnock passing, and you can see the math for Ossoff if he overwhelms them, getting there, but more than likely at least getting very close. And then the question is, what's still out? And as Mr. Sterling just noted, when it gets that close, number one, it means we're going into the morning and we're counting on, at least in that race, the closer race. And number two, that then you're saying, okay, so what are we missing? Number one, overseas and military ballots, Georgians who live overseas, Georgians serving overseas, those ballots have until Friday to come in. So if it's very, very close, we have to wait on those. And then otherwise, you're looking. So again, we're waiting for this. When will it come in? There's clearly some tension between the local officials and the state officials in Georgia. And then you're running around and looking where there are votes. Gwinnett County, the second largest, you say 95% is in. But this is a big county. So with 5% still out, Democrats having a pretty significant advantage. Democrats could pick up some votes here as they come in. Fulton County, 95%. Again, they are mostly done, but they're not completely done. And this is a place where Democrats are getting 74% if you round up for Mr. Warnock, 73% if you round up for Mr. Ossoff. So there are smaller numbers. It's not like DeKalb where you have this giant pool of votes still to come in, but you have some more to come in. Then you move out to Cobb County, again, at 94%. So there are places where Democrats can pick up hundreds, potentially more than that, outside of DeKalb. But DeKalb is what we're waiting on right now. And then, as Mr. Sterling noted, then you're going around the state. What about the Republican counties? Where are there places where you know Republicans are going to gain? So what are you looking at? Reliably Republican counties like Forsyth? Well, they're up to 99%. So if you get something there, it's going to be pretty small. You move over here to Cherokee County. These two counties were absolutely critical. Democrats were ahead early. The Republicans came back, but you're at 99%. You come up here, Pickens County, 58th. They're not, as he said, I said they're small. Not all of them are tiny. There's a decent amount of votes here, but you see 11,000 votes. In the Atlanta suburbs, we're talking about tens of thousands of votes, sometimes more than 100,000 votes total. It's a smaller total here, but something we pick up. A place like Gilmer County, again, 61 of 159. But only 74%. So there are some Republican votes here, a couple hundred votes there, a couple votes. This gets really close. This is what we're going to be going through late into the night, into the early morning, and potentially, Wolf, given our track record here for the next couple of days. I'm just moving across the top of the state just to see at 95% here. This here, Whitfield County, was the site of the president's last rally. And you see 71% for Senator Perdue, 71% for Senator Loeffler. If you go back to the presidential race, 70% for President Trump. President Trump, again, he lost Georgia. He lost the presidency in 2020. But if you follow the last couple of weeks of the campaign, where he did rallies, his people came out to vote. And it looks like in Whitfield County, which is at 100%, it looks like, they did at least get good numbers for the Republicans there. The question is, where else? And so as we wait, 114,000 votes there, 81,000 votes there. When will this come in? And how much of a gain will the Democrats make? That's the defining question in both of these races right now.
At least we clarified the 171,000 votes that are about to be released versus the 117,000 votes. We clarified that. They made a mistake in DeKalb County, and as a result, they released the wrong number.
And look, we're called human for a reason, and these officials are working incredibly hard, and they understand the pressure on them, so we need to give them grace. But when you have such high stakes, it's very important, and we're lucky to have good correspondents on the ground who keep pushing and keep pushing. When you have one official say A and another official says B, we send our people back in the room, or we get them on the air like we did with Mr. Sterling, and we sort it out. So it can be confusing, and they're doing a very difficult job under a ton of pressure. A lot of these local officials, they don't get paid much. Some of them are even volunteers. So we have to give them grace, but it's also important that when we have questions like this, we push, get the answers.
And we're grateful to all of these elections, not only Georgia, but all over the country, because they really, really do incredibly important work. We're waiting to see what happens in DeKalb County. 42% of the vote is in. 58% of the vote is still out. We're waiting for 171,000 votes, Jake, to come in. This could be a decisive moment.
It could, in fact, be a very decisive moment. And the difference, Dana and Abby, between 117,000 votes outstanding in DeKalb County and 171,000 could mean the difference between Senator Perdue and Senator Ossoff. I have to say, just texting with Democrats and Republicans, there's a lot of cautious optimism that I'm picking up from Democratic friends, and Republican friends are preparing for the worst. Some of them are even saying we're toast. Now, that's preliminary, but these people have access to a lot more information than we do right now. It really does seem as though Donald Trump and his conspiracy theories and attacking Republicans and attacking elections, at the very least, made this race a lot closer than it needed to be. And at the very worst, for Trump and the Republicans, might have cost them the Senate.
May have. But at this point in time, as you were just alluding to, we don't know. And what's amazing is, we knew that this would be a dramatic day and that these two races would be dramatic because they do determine the balance of power in the Senate. But let's face it, we thought the 2020 election drama was behind us when it comes to the ballot box, and it's not. It is not, because what we're hearing from our sources, all of us, is so much anticipation, so much anxiety, a lot of nervousness on both sides because of this the way it's going to go down in general, but particularly DeKalb County.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to keep in mind that this is a red state. Georgia is not even yet, I think, considered a purple state.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And so the fact that these two races are as competitive as they are is a really remarkable thing, especially considering when you look back at November, you saw Perdue and you saw Kelly Loeffler actually overperforming Trump in that state. And doing a little bit better. There was a gap between their opponents of a couple of points. It was not enough to get them to the 50% threshold. But now we're looking at a scenario in which this race is going to be very, very tight. And as you heard Gabriel Sterling just say, when we get this tranche of votes from DeKalb, it could end up putting the Democrats up for some time. We don't know how long because there are still more votes outstanding. But that's a complete change of fortunes. And it's one that I think it should be a wake-up call for Republicans.
And speaking of Gabriel Sterling, Republican election official from Georgia, who the other day felt the need to go and refute point by point all of the conspiracy theory lies that President Trump and his allies have been pushing, I find it hard to believe that Gabriel Sterling, who knows much more about every precinct in every county in Georgia than any of us, except for maybe John King, I find it hard to believe that he would go out and preemptively say, if we lose these races, it will be on the back of Donald Trump. Donald Trump will be responsible. I find it hard to believe that he would say that if he thought that there was a good chance Loeffler and Perdue would win.
Well, certainly, I don't think he would say that if he thought that they would win comfortably. And let's be honest, these are Republican seats. It's a Republican state. It's a place and a time where Republicans should be very competitive. And they are in a squeaker right now.
Yeah.
That is true. And I think Gabriel Sterling is looking at the numbers and he knows that. He's looking at some of these red counties and he's seeing underperformance from where Republicans were a few months ago in November. And there's a really simple explanation for that. When you tell everyone that the thing is rigged, they're not going to want to show up. And not only that, but President Trump told his supporters that they should hold it against, the Republican elected officials in that state, that they did not do what he wanted them to do, which is flip the state of Georgia to him. So President Trump made it clear what his intentions were. He signaled that to his supporters, and it very much seems like many of them just didn't show up.
Yeah, and the message that Republicans who were organizing the strategy for both of these candidates felt was a very strong one was the basic, you have to elect these Republicans to have a check on the Democratic president, to have, dual control, split control in Washington. And if you don't, there's going to be total Democratic control. They felt that in their data beforehand and in all their testing of that message, that it was a really strong one. But they ran into a buzzsaw, which is the president of the United States. And there was a lot of concern, according to Republicans I talked to, that that message just completely got drowned out by Donald Trump saying that this election is rigged and, all of the attacks on the governor and the secretary of state and so forth. And again, it just made it incredibly confusing for voters, no matter what happens at the end of the day.
And think about this. First of all, President Trump swore an oath to protect the people of the United States, and he should be spending all this time trying to figure out how to fix the vaccine problem and get the pandemic slowed down in the United States. But okay, given the fact that he's not going to do that, that's not where his mind is. Let's put that aside for a second. Who have you heard President Trump go after more? Jon Ossoff? Okay, let's go to Wolf Blitzer right now. He has a key race alert.
All right, let's take a look at David Perdue, the Republican. All of a sudden, his lead was 114,000. Look at this. The Republican David Perdue's lead over Jon Ossoff is now only 2,140, 50%, with 94% of the vote in. All of a sudden,